Welcome to the second episode of the People of Fishing podcast. I'm Chris Kingree, and I'll be your host today. Today, we've got somebody kind of special, somebody local, somebody I've known for a few years now. That is, he's honestly just a Florida hammer when it comes to fishing here, anywhere in the state of Florida, and even out of state. He's been, he's done a lot in his career for, in the grassroots level, the Toyota series of the FLW Tour. A little bit of everything. He's got a little over $300,000 in tournament winnings with FLW and not fished at the pro level of the pro circuit yet. That's crazy. $300,000 in tournament winnings. He's a BFL regional qualifier and winner, as well as a BFL All-American winner and qualifier, and has been to the Forest Wood Cup as a co-angler. Meet Robbie Crosnoe, good friend of mine. How are you, Robbie?
I'm doing pretty good, Chris.
Man, it's something I've wanted to do is bring this podcast about and show people who these guys are that they see in the standings and the newspaper articles, the videos, FLW. You've done several interviews with FLW over the years, and it's exciting to be able to show the average person that doesn't really know where the dots connect who Robbie Crosnoe is.
Well,
so,
it's I'd say across the board, every pro bass fisherman, every fisherman, we're normal people. The majority of us carry normal jobs. Monday through Friday during the week, and we fish weekend warriors. And we just take vacation. We save everything up for fishing.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is, like, you could be somebody like, for instance, Kevin Van Dam. He, goes out there, crushes it for years, has his name on almost every packaging in bass fishing right now. And you can run into him at a store in Kalamazoo any day of the week.
That's right.
And he's just a normal guy, doesn't have like security, armed guards, whatever, the Hollywood celebrity status would have. But, here in little old Inverness, Florida, here we have, somebody accomplished like yourself or, George Capitan or, a bunch of other people, even in our small town here, that really have gone the distance in tournament bass fishing and have grown their career from, our little lakes here on the Salapopka chain to, as far north as New York or, out west or wherever it takes you. I think it's really impressive that, you've got more earnings than most tournament guys do at the pro level right now. At a BFL level alone, not even, it's crazy to me. But I've learned a lot from you so far, and I've only known you for, 4 or 5 years now. And, man, I tell you, it changes the way that I've done things, and I've only been bass fishing for about 6 years. And, man, between you and some of the other guys that you guys hang out with and bring around, and it's been incredible to learn off of you guys.
Yeah, sometimes, be perfectly honest with you, I can't believe it myself. I walk into my trophy room, I'm like, is this even possible? And just the success I had, starting my first year, I'll go back to a story. My very first tournament, my best friend Ricky Grant talks me into being his co-angler link because back then the BFLs were full. So I very, very reluctant to do it, but I said, okay, I'll do it. And this is the honest to God truth. Third cast, throwing a Lucky Craft LVR D7 in Little Lake Harris. I catch a 9.8, 9-pound, 8-ouncer. First fish that I've ever fished the BFL.
Wow.
Basically from that point forward, I was hooked. I cut a check that tournament. I think I finished like 12th or 13th. And I went on to finish 19th my first year as a co-angler, and it was just amazing. Believe it or not, I went to what's the name of the lake? Clarks Hill Reservoir, South Carolina, and in regionals. And I don't know how I did it, but I won. Throwing a Carolina rig as far as I could, just grinded and I ended up winning regionals. So. Honestly, that's how I got my first bass boat, is I won it.
Really?
At a regionals.
Man, everybody just thinks that when you're, you're up there, you got a wrap boat and this and that. It's just all been handed to you. But, and that's why I wanted to start this podcast was to get people's perspective on how they started, because everybody's got a different journey in this industry. And you've got, I know like several different guys that have made different things. Some people have kind of bought their way into it, and other people have just really clawed their way to the top and into the competition. The cool thing is a story like that. You won your first boat that your competition boat or your tournament boat that really made it possible for you to keep on competing at that level.
Yeah, and that's exactly what made me keep my first year basically fishing. 2007 was my first official year in the BFLs, and so all the championships were in 2008, and I won Clarks Hill like I was just talking about, and then I went on to the All-American, and in Hot Springs, Arkansas, and somehow I won that. Like,
was that Ouachita or Hamilton?
Hamilton.
Yeah,
I had no family there. I was just starting out. I was there by myself, and in Hot Springs, they treat their anglers so well there. Like for the All-American, we weighed in at this giant auditorium.
Yeah, the convention center there. Yep.
And so I'm in there all by myself, not one single friend in there, and I'm holding up a $50,000 check. I couldn't believe it.
That's insane. I can't imagine. I wish to get close to that one day, but I'll just be happy to, live vicariously through a lot of you guys. But so you started fishing as a co-angler?
As a co-angler.
How long did you do that for?
2 years. My first year I missed the first event, but I still finished 19th in points. My second year as a full-time co-angler, basically in the Gator Division BFL, I won the points championship. And then at that point, I had won the boat in Clarks Hill. So my third year, I went as a boater. So 2009, I believe.
Right. So did you find that being a co-angler at that time, what would have happened if you would have started as a boater, do you think? Do you think you would have been just as good as a boater, or do you think that being a co-angler built the foundation for you being on the boater side?
I would say I would recommend everybody go be a co-angler first. For one, you learn the bodies of water that are going to fish in the state of Florida. Harris Chain, Okeechobee, St. Johns River, the Kissimmee Chain. So you learn the different lakes. You learn other people's techniques. Right. Sometimes the year, like when they're spawn fishing, and you're a co-angler, you get with somebody bed fishing. I'm not a very good bed fisherman. I never have been. I don't have the patience for it, and I don't like looking at them. But you still learn techniques from those guys just watching from the back of their boat. Like anybody getting in this sport that wants to fish at a higher level than their standard bass club or whatever, go be a co-angler. There's a high demand for them, and especially in the BFL Gator Division, and you'll definitely learn.
Yeah, it's I did it for a little bit, and I know that what you definitely learn is patience, because you're stuck on the back of the boat with somebody that it's their game plan for the day. In the essence of it, sometimes you can talk to somebody about a game plan throughout the day and work things out, and maybe work to your favor a little bit towards the end of the day when things start going sideways. But for the most part, you're there for the ride, and you got to make work whatever they're on to make work for you to get in the money. But when I did it, it was like it was more of a learning experience than anything, and I think a lot of people can learn from that, as well as that there's guys that you fish with out of state that have a different perspective on how to fish Florida than we do, or somebody that we fish with out of state, they bring something else to the table at their home lake that we can bring back with us.
That's one thing. Being a co-angler, you're at the mercy of your boater, but there's still ways to catch fish. You don't have to fish his style. You fish your own style. Back then, when I was a co-angler, I remember my number one baits was a green pumpkin chatterbait. That's all I threw almost solely. I don't care what lake we were on in the state of Florida, and that was basically my success as a co-angler was a chatterbait. I don't care if it was bed fishing, the guy was flipping a block with Cinco. I was throwing down somewhere next to pads somewhere with a chatterbait.
Yeah, I've heard some guys really rely on like those baits that you could, on the co-angler side, the guys who've been really successful at it have always gone for those baits that they could get 3 good bites on, or 5 good bites on a day. That would make the difference of, you know, their success of always cutting a check, always being in the money, always being in the top 10. And I think there's something to be said for something that, like a chatterbait. Chatterbait just flat catches fish.
It does.
It either gets you bites or it gets you big bites. And I've seen it happen both ways. I'm sure you have. So you still do it.
I guarantee there's one tied onto my boat right now. Jackhammer.
Yeah, it's hard to beat. It's a great bait. Do you think that from the co-angler level to the boater level, what during that swap period, what was it like going to the front of the boat at a big tournament or a bigger tournament trail than just like a club tournament or, you know, Wednesday night tournament or something like that?
I was a nervous wreck, and I'll tell you a story about my first BFL on Lake Okeechobee. My first boat was a TR-20 Triton, and they're not the best riding boats for big water.
Right.
And, it was blowing, and you know I didn't have very much experience, and I tried to cross Lake Okeechobee with probably a 15-knot wind out of the northwest. So, you know, we put it in Okatani, which is the north end of Okeechobee, and I tried to cross that lake. I made it about a mile or two out, and turned around and said, I'm in trouble. I was a nervous wreck.
And that's probably a smart decision too.
No, it was. I turned right around and went to Harney Pond and ended up doing good in those tournaments.
So did you practice in Harney Pond that tournament?
Yes.
So you had that as a backup plan in case it blew, or in case you had just kind of like gone everywhere and settled with there.
I was actually heading to Red Island, and where we had found a bunch of fish, but Harney Pond's always, you know, if you're going to go to Okeechobee, you got to practice Harney Pond at least one day.
Right.
So that was my go-to spot. I turned right down the grass line and hauled butt there. Man,
Okeechobee, I remember my first time there. It was absolutely the scariest experience of my life to go out there knowing nowhere to go, nothing. I had no pointers. I went out there, and you pull out to this big bowl of a lake, and you go, okay, where the heck do I start?
We've all been there on that lake. Like, it's hours and hours and hours of practice on that place to find them.
Yeah, it's interesting going from like a club atmosphere to going to a big water lake like that, and you're like, okay, so I'm used to worrying about like maybe a couple miles of running here and there throughout a whole day, and you know you could run 15, 20 miles just to go to your first spot, and then put in 60, 70 miles in a day just to get your 5 bites.
That's true. That's easy. And lake's unforgiving too. You know, south end's full of rocks, and it only takes a little bit of wind, 10-mile-an-hour wind, to get that lake big.
Not to mention the water level changes too. I mean, it goes up and down all the time, and then not to mention you get a wind one way or the other. You've got, you know, an extra 3-4 feet of water on one end and less on the other.
Yeah, there's always a current with the wind. Yep.
Yeah, we so out of the lakes in Florida, what do you think your favorite is?
I would have to say Toho probably fishes my strength the best. The Harris chain is starting to fish really, really good, and there's so many ways to catch them over there. It's actually a very fun lake to fish. But Okeechobee has always been my favorite until the hurricane came, and it basically devastated the lake to the point where it pushed all the grass lines back so far that there's not very much flipping there, like mat style flipping. But
Right.
I don't know. It'll come back. You know, it's in South Florida, and the grass grows there very well, so it'll eventually come back.
So just circling back a little bit, when you said you'd started your first major tournament and kind of made it all the way to the regionals as a co-angler and things like that. What got you originally started in bass fishing? As far as, was it something you started when you were younger, or was it something somebody brought along later in life? Or
No, I've always been a fisherman. Like when I was a kid, we didn't have Xboxes. We had a bicycle, a fishing rod, and if we were lucky, some dead shiners from Happy's Bait and Tackle back then. And you know, my grandma lived on Frole City Lake, so my days were spent, if I went to my grandma's house, which I did quite frequently because just to go fishing, I would drive by myself on my bicycle to Duval Island and sit there all day to catch mudfish and gar with dead shiners. As long as I was catching a fish, I was happy.
As long as it pulled.
And then, we graduated to 12-foot John boat, fishing, and we started fishing, Dave Cutler's small tournaments and stuff like that, 12, 10 boats. And we did it out of a 14-foot John boat with a cooler for a live well. And so I've always been a bass fisherman. And then just in 2007 is when I really went, to the next level.
Right. Kind of started out with the BFLs, and then now you've back when it was the Costa Series, you're in the Toyota Series now. How do you feel going from a BFL to a Toyota Series event? The differences of those fields. Do you think it's? I've heard both sides of it. That some people say it's sometimes easier to compete with less boats because sometimes those BFLs get 250 boats sometimes, and so you're shrinking that field down a hair, but it's just as competitive.
I don't look at it that way anymore. I mean, I'm sure my first Toyota or Costa Series back then I was a nervous wreck. Probably got butterflies and almost threw up in the morning time before takeoff. But I'm, in my third year in it now. Last year I made the championship in Lake Cumberland and in Kentucky, and I'm kind of one of the locals, to the Toyota Series now, and I make so many friends, and you meet so many big time fishermen. Buddy Gross fishes them, Brian Thrift fishes them, and they used to, but it really is a great atmosphere to go fish in those big events.
One thing I've noticed about fishing is in the tournament level, you meet a lot of guys that share a lot of interests that you do, and they're so willing to just put their hand out there and be like, hey man, nice to meet you. I don't know you. I'm willing to, introduce myself right off the bat as, part of the family. And I think that's something special, even though like they call boat numbers and we're like all ready to, rip each other's head off and travel down the lake and get to our spots. But at weigh-in, you see a lot of camaraderie, a lot of people checking in each other's bags, seeing what they got. And
yeah, it's a great atmosphere at bass tournaments. Me personally, have never been even in an argument with another bass fisherman. I stay to myself and make friends. I got friends all over the state. And bass fishing is not cheap. The travels. Yeah. Travel expenses, gas, food, lodging. I got friends in Georgia that basically opened their doors to us and let us stay at their house. Lake Seminole, Brian Dill, and his wife Audrey. So you meet people like the greatest people that you could ever meet at bass tournaments.
Yeah, I know. When we go out, we'll go out like it's like a family away from your family kind of deal. You all go out to dinner, hang out, drink a little beer every now and then, and we discuss what we did that day. Some people say it absolutely stunk, and other days, you're on them and share a little bit here and there and help everybody out just to try to make sure we all go home with our head held up high. Sometimes it doesn't always work that way, but there's. I always think that the bass fishing, you got the highest of highs and the lowest of lows.
That's true. The thing about bass fishing, you can be the biggest competitor in the world. You're never going to win every tournament. You're never going to do good in every tournament. But just you got to keep your head up and keep grinding, and eventually it's going to happen.
Yeah, it's some of the things that I've seen out of different anglers along the way is they really find their own niche. Now you're really known for flipping and stuff like that. Would you say that if you go to a lake, let's say out of state, somewhere that doesn't have any grass, are you still going to try to flip something first?
Absolutely. I'm gonna start shallow every single time, and whether it be pitch a jig to a dock, maybe even a trick worm, but I'm gonna try to pitch if I can.
Right.
I'm not a very well deep water fisherman. Mm-hmm. I can scan. I could probably find schools of fish, but that's not my comfort zone. My comfort zone is pitching something. I don't care if it's a dock, if it's wood, in some of the Tennessee River lakes, bushes, whatever it may be. That's my first, and I'm going to do that my first day of practice, probably for a full day, burn the bank up. And if I can't catch them, then I'll then I'll make adjustments. But it's always my go-to thing.
Do you think what's your favorite stuff to flip when it comes to like? I've always wondered this of like when you go to like let's say like Russo, well, when you're looking around for what the juice is, because out there sometimes I mean it's full of pennywort mats and sometimes it's got some hyacinths and hydrilla buildup and some coontail and things like that. What do you key in on when you first get to the lake there?
It's going to be either pennywort or hydrilla. Like when Russo mats out all the way to the river channel, and it's not quite there yet, but it's coming. Probably three or 4 more weeks. It's going to be matted out the river channel. That is the hydrilla lines, and then if you get pennywort mixed in there, it's going to be loaded. But right now, it's just not right. So like if I go to Lake Harris, it might be pitching Kissimmee grass. Lake Kissimmee during the heat of the summer is pitching a jig to the outside Kissimmee grass lines where, you want to find the lines with the bluegill in them or the chizzywinks that the bluegill are eating,
right.
Which is a blind mosquito. So, and it's just time. It's on your trolling motor on 70, just, when you're practicing, just burning up grass lines as many as you can because the bite really does get tough on Kissimmee after 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
So you've got to be on your juice in the tournament first thing in the morning until about 10, and then it's a grind the rest of the day. But flipping, can be a grind. Like when we go to Lake Seminole in November, I really can't wait to get there because if I get 10 bites, I'm going to have a big bag.
Yeah, I remember you told me about that when I went there last time. You helped me out with some stuff there, and it didn't work out for me as much as I should have had. It was a great practice, awful tournament deal. Conditions changed, but it's definitely a different kind of flipping at Seminole.
Oh, it is because it's deep.
Yeah, you're flipping 10 to 14 feet, and it's absolutely just plumed up hydrilla. Like I've never seen the hydrilla grow like it does on Lake Seminole.
It's definitely a tip. It's tough fishing. And I mean, it's hard to get used to because we're used to flipping in Florida 4 foot or less, I'd say. Most time 3 foot or less. And to go out there and get bit in 8 to 10 foot of water and, matted out hydrilla is amazing. And it's a different, like you really got to set the hook on them because the water's so deep and your line does different stuff, like comes back towards you and the fish stays there. It's just kind of weird. It's not like you're pulling the fish to the surface in a mat. So I can't wait to get there. And I've had very good success on Seminole. I finished second in a regional there to my buddy Wayne Christopher from Alabama. But it's my style of fishing. That's what I love to do.
Do you think the water be cool enough that time of year to really pull out a rattle trap or a lipless crankbait?
It depends. It all depends on the weather. I hope it's not because I really want to flip because they say when the water gets about 68 or starts going below 68 on that lake, the rattle trap bite really heats up, and I don't want to see that personally because the lake is really super tough in November, and like if I'm going to flip or whatever, it's going to be super tough. But I know in my mind that I can grind out, 5 to 10 bites. I'm going to have a good bag.
Right. Yeah, that place can be really different when it gets windy too.
Oh yeah.
All the stumps and the different treacherous things to get into outside the channel there. I remember something. What was it? Was that a regional there? A BFL regional?
Yeah, it was our BFL regional. I think it was our championship
I remember a little bit of a story. You were on a roll there, and
it was the second day of the tournament, and I came around the corner that I'd came around numerous times, called I-75 up there in Georgia, and there was actually a fisherman on this line, so I gave him a little bit too much room, and when I came around the corner going like 65 miles an hour, I hit a stump. Somehow I didn't hit it with my motor, but I hit it with the bottom of my boat, and cracked a big giant hole in it. And I was on the phone with the tournament director, Alan Gray. I was like, Alan, I've got to get my boat out of the water. I'm sinking. And he's like, we'll be ready for you. I got to take your fish. Well, as soon as you pull up here, run get your truck and we'll get your boat out of the water. And sure enough, I mean, the hole was like 5 inches across the entire back of my boat, and it was taking on probably a gallon a second.
Man. How did that tournament end up? I thought you did fairly decent in that one too, even with that. Because did you borrow a boat the next day?
Yeah, I borrowed George's boat, and honestly, me and Kiso, one of my best friends in the fishing world, both made the All-American. That was Pickwick when we went. Yeah, we qualified for Pickwick.
Yep. Yeah, that was a good year. I was cheering for you.
Yeah.
The the most recent in the last couple of years, one thing that really sticks in my head was the tournament on Lake Harris in the FLW series back when the tour had co-anglers, and out of nowhere everybody decided. I think George had his thing where he got like 40 people to fish and whatnot, and I remember you walking up the first day to me and saying, "I'm going to win this thing."
Yeah.
And that was like the creepiest thing I've ever had happen, was somebody that was that sure of themselves day one, after weigh-in the first day out of 2 days, that you didn't even look at the weights from the co-anglers and walked up to me and said, "I think I've got this thing."
Yeah, it was that was unbelievable. It was fun to get back in the boat,
Yeah.
and those on that level, the majority of those guys are on fish. And like my first day I fished with, cannot think of his name right now, Bob Burley. And we went to Griffin, and he was fishing near the mouth of the Ocklawaha River, and beautiful eelgrass, beautiful clumps everywhere. And I resorted back to my old school days, throwing a June bug, big Magnum speed worm, and just went to killing them. I mean, we went to catching them like crazy. Really fun day. And the next day I got paired with Anthony Gagliardi. And
I remember that after that first day, you called me up like at 8:00 at night, and you said, "I need Senkos. I need them bad, real bad. Can you meet me in the morning?" I said, "Yeah, that's fine," because I was doing the camera boat thing.
yeah.
And I ended up meeting you at the gas station in the morning and getting you 5 bags of Senkos there.
No, I remember.
And we ended up going, and I was watching all the live stuff as it was going down. And then all of a sudden you get to weigh and you go, "I caught my last fish on one of them Senkos."
Oh yeah.
Then that was the kicker.
But we that was a great tournament. A great time. George actually put that together because the tournament director, actually the president of FLW at that time, needed co-anglers really bad. And so George basically put together, went and asked for donations through all around Citrus County businesses, and actually raised enough money to pay all of our memberships, or at least it was half or something.
Yeah, I think it was a half deal. He got like 40-something people to go.
Yeah.
And it was people that, there were some people that had fished a lot, and there were some people that had never even fished
right.
more than like with their dad or whatever growing up. And that was really cool of him to get that going. And I think there's a lot of people that started fishing tournaments just off of that one tournament.
This is what we figured up that day, is those 40 anglers from around Central Florida, because some of them came from Orlando, and George's buddies from down there. But I ended up winning $25,000. The rest of our 40 people won another $30,000.
Wow, that's
I
incredible.
think Trey Shaw finished fourth.
Yeah.
A lot of the guys won $1,000.
Yep. Yeah, there was a couple in the top 20 for sure. Yeah. And I mean, it was a good spread of people though. I mean, and there was people that I know that today that come in the shop that had never bass fished until they fished that tournament. So it's definitely something to be said for it, that for people looking to get into the co-angler stuff, or getting bass fishing at all, you don't even have to have a boat. Just go get a couple rods, get a couple reels and some baits, and go jump on the back of a boat on a BFL or even Bass Nation, and you don't have to have the expense of a boat and all that stuff.
Yeah, I took 10% of my winnings, so I donated $2,500 to the Strikers.
It was one of them. It was
Academy of Environmental Science.
Yeah, yep.
And then the ROTC. I think I split the money up, but I gave both those programs to get their fishing program started. $2,500 at the Cove. We had like a big seminar and stuff, but that was awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. So as far as the younger guys getting into it, you have your son Brantley, and I see pictures of you guys all over the place. He's always on the water. Tell me a little bit more about what you guys have kind of done with Brantley and fishing and things like that. Is it something similar to how you grew up?
Oh, exactly. My dad wasn't that big of a bass fisherman, but my friends' dads were back then. They lived on freshwater ponds. they always took me saltwater fishing. Larry Grant, every weekend. He was basically my dad while I was growing up, basically introducing me to the outdoors, fishing, hunting. Every single weekend we did it. But so Brantley, his mom's a nurse and she's in Texas right now. So Brantley's became my number one practice partner. And, we fished our first Wednesday night or last Wednesday together. And even though he's still got a lot of learning to do and everything, he had a great time. We finished second, one big fish, and Brantley went up there and got his money and didn't even give me a dime. It all went in his wallet. I think it was $110 or something. But
man.
He loved it. And now he's addicted, and I knew it. Last Wednesday, I said, I guarantee we're going to go fish next Wednesday also.
Oh, yeah. He's got the itch now. He's gotten the money. So and you guys live out there on the water now, so he's able to go out there and hang out and practice.
Oh, he fishes by himself. He's got his own 18-foot Sea Arc, and I let him go on his trolling motor, and his go-to bait's a reaction innovation Trixie Shark, and that's what he throws 100% of the time. But he's his personal best now. I learned this the other day. PB stands for personal best. On the river. It was a 613. We were flipping on the river, and he caught it by himself. So he's definitely addicted.
Man, that's really interesting. That he's able to go do that. How old is he again?
8.
Man, I know I was doing stuff like that when I was 8 too, and you don't see that a lot anymore. It's really cool to see somebody like Brantley trying to really get the bug and get out there. Do you think you'll be getting him involved in any of the youth programs or anything like that?
Yeah, as soon as he can. He's definitely going to. If I can help it.
Yeah.
I got to get him off his Xbox Fortnite kick somehow. I don't know how it's going to happen if I don't throw that thing in the water first.
It sounds like he's pretty active indoors or outdoors, either way. I mean, every time I see him, he's always got a smile on his face, and now he's telling you what baits he wants instead of you tell him what he needs.
Yeah, those people that know me are, even at our tournaments, if I make the championship day or whatever, he'll come there. And so after I weigh in and we're going to load the boat up, he literally just takes my boat and he'll get it right on the trailer every time. And even in our practice days when we're practicing now, he drives me around. He's my chauffeur. All I do is point where to go.
Nice. That's exciting. How do you think other people could get their kids involved in fishing the way you have with Brantley? Or what advice would you give, other parents?
I'd have to say, just get them out there. Everybody can't afford a boat, but if you have one, take your kids fishing. If not, there's all kind of parks, city parks. Cooter Pond Park is loaded with bass. There's a big giant dock you can walk down. Let the kids get out there, even if they're catching a little brim, whatever. Just go do it.
We've got a big community here. It's a small community, but it's growing up in Citrus County. It's everybody knows everybody, and I feel like with some of the youth organizations that are around, that you've got Marion County Bassmasters. Daniel Tillis runs that, and they do a really good job about getting kids on the water, whether they're as young as 6 years old to compete in tournaments. It's different than when you and I grew up, that it's, now there's so many opportunities. I mean, you can go to a high school bass fishing team now and then follow that all the way through college on a scholarship even.
Yeah,
just to bass fish.
A lot of my friends that have earned scholarships, I was pretty active when Brandon Branch and Hunter McPherson went to state. I took them, I drove them. It's a very boring day, but I dedicated my time in my boat to take them to Toho, where they won the state championship back-to-back years. And then they were fortunate enough to go to, I think it was
the World
Beaver
Finals.
Lake.
Yeah, I think it was Pickwick or Nickajack.
Well, they went. I think they went to Beaver in Arkansas first.
Yeah.
And one of the lakes, regardless, they won. They won first place in the national championship. So that was unbelievable.
And then again, you had Laramie Strickland that kind of grew up in that mix right after Brandon graduated, and then I think he went with Hunter one year, and they went back to back again,
state champions. Yeah,
and actually they had to throw their fish back because there was no exemptions at that state championship, and I think they had 30 plus pounds, with still having to throw their fish back because they didn't have an exemption at that time.
Yeah.
Because I think you're allowed one per person over 22 inches or something, or 21 inches or something.
That was on both the state championships. When Brandon and Hunter won it, we had to throw a 7-pounder back because they didn't have exemptions. And then when Laramie and Hunter won it, they had to throw a couple giants back because you're only allowed to have 2 over 22, one person.
Yeah, that's insane. But how do you think that somebody that's into tournament fishing like they were, what would be your advice to somebody now coaching a high school or college angler from what you learned from that experience of, with Brandon and Hunter and Laramie and some of those other guys? And Laramie now, I mean, he's a FLW champion, and something like that, you've watched him grow as well. Where do you think he, where it clicked for him?
I honestly don't know.
Just from an outsider perspective. Obviously, you can't speak for him, but
after high school, he had a little bit of a layoff. He didn't fish for a while, and it's whatever his reasons were. But when he came back full force. Had great sponsors, and he's doing extremely well for himself. The other guys, Brandon Branch, I'll use an example. He's a saltwater fishing guide and one of the best in Crystal River. You can check out his website, Crystal River Fishing Company. I go with him all the time now on my days off to saltwater fishing. It's an amazing experience over there with him. So, and Hunter, he's a big time deer hunter, hog hunter. Mm-hmm. So he recently, his dad finally just bought my old motor, last year's motor, to put on his boat, and they got it all fixed up. So I anticipate Hunter coming back to the sport next year, probably full swing, if there's a BFL Gator division.
Yeah, like I said, we've got some fantastic anglers around here that, if you get even a Wednesday nighter, it's like the competition of a BFL or, even an FLW tournament with the people that show up. I mean, we used to have, George would show up, you'd show up, Glenn Brown would show up any day of the week. I miss Glenn to death. He was one of the greatest people we could have had for the sport, I think. And we were lucky to have him in our area.
I remember this is way back when we fished a tournament on Lake Panasoffkee against Glenn Brown, when Glenn Brown was basically a up-and-comer FLW Tour pro. And me and Ricky were in a 14-foot John boat, a trolling motor, and Glenn was in I think it was an 07 Z20, red, white, and blue, beautiful boat. And we're like, back then I'm like, I want to be like Glenn Brown. And I honestly basically mimicked my career. He was known as the best flipping guy in the state of Florida.
Yeah.
I watched
Hands
him on
down.
video. He's amazing fisherman. I had the opportunity to fish with him a couple times, and I'm no exaggeration. I modeled my career after Glenn Brown.
He's I wish I could ever achieve a quarter of his knowledge and even half of the respect people had for him. He was just that guy that you could walk up to, and he didn't care. He'd tell you exactly what he was doing, how he did it, and because he knew you weren't going to catch him.
That's right. He was that good. I watched him many, many times. We got to go fish Harris one time together. We went to a little Lake Deaton. Yep. And it was blooms of hydrilla, and we smoked them, and we had such a great time. And it's cancer's a bad deal.
Yeah. We had a really good day fishing with him on Russo. Me and Mikey Balls, and we shot a video out there, and man, we got like 6 bites all day. At the end of the day, he's like, "What? You guys only got 6 fish total all day?" And we're like, "Yeah. What did we do wrong?" And he told us about 2 or 3 different tweaks. We went out, we caught like 20 fish in like 30 minutes after that, and it was just unbelievable how he could just tell us exactly what we did wrong in 5 minutes of conversation. And it wasn't where we were fishing or what we were fishing. It was exactly just as simple as just how fast we were swimming a bait or soaking a bait, or how to pitch it in or things like that.
Yeah, he was amazing.
So, what's the future hold for you as far as the next step in professional fishing? Do you think that we'll ever see you on the pro circuit, or maybe to maybe try some Bassmaster tournaments in the future?
That's totally up to my sponsors.
Is it?
That we're gonna have to see. Honestly, I work for the Citrus County Sheriff's Office, so I've just started my 24th year. I'm actually halfway done with it, so I've got like a year and a half left to think about it. But quitting the sheriff's office was never an option for me. I've got to stick it out, and to fish the FLW Tour, you basically almost can't have a job because there's 7 tournaments or 6 tournaments a year, and that's 6 weeks you're gone. And I get a lot of vacation because of my years, but I don't get that much vacation. So if we're going to see after when I get my 25 years in, if I'm still able to, good Lord willing, that I'll definitely try to fish the FLW Tour.
Do you think so how long before you're 25 in? How many more years do we have?
I only got a year and 5 months.
Oh my goodness, it's getting there close. So the as far as managing a full schedule at work and fishing, how has that worked for you over the years? Has it been easy?
I get a lot of vacation, so every January when the FLW schedule comes out, I literally sit down with the calendar, write every date down, and I send my boss an email from January 1st, or as soon as the schedule comes out for all my vacation days. So I get 6 weeks of vacation at the sheriff's office, so almost every bit of it is spent fishing. And my bigger tournaments, the regionals, or if I'm lucky enough to go to the All-American or whatever, I always include my family in that. So that's basically our family vacation.
That's what a lot of guys seem to say is they get these destinations that they can go to. Like I know Chickamauga, I'd love to take my family there. That place is beautiful. And there's plenty for them to do while I'm out fishing too. It's a nice, Dayton's a nice area. And I mean, any of those stops that we go to for the most part has been very, very consistent as far as amenities for the family to be able to do things.
Yeah, it's I try to take as much as I can. Like a lot of my locals, I got like this little omen over me that every time my wife comes to a tournament, I do bad. So sometimes if it's just a one-day tournament, I'm like, babe, you're not allowed to come to this one.
Oh man. Does she go along with that now, or is it still a fight? Or
she knows I play baseball, high school and college, so she knows the superstitions that I have, and I'll wear the same clothes, same hat, same everything, if I do good in a tournament. So, but I was building a house last year, so I didn't get to fish a whole lot. I didn't have a real good year last year. This year started out not so good because I'm trying to move in the house, and basically the stresses of doing that. And but after our long layover, the pandemic, all that stuff, all the tournaments getting canceled, I was ready to come back and fish. And the BFL Gator Division in Harris Chain last week, or 2 weeks ago, I finished 8th, and then the very next week I jumped into the ABA and finished 3rd. So it only takes 1 or 2 good tournaments to feel come back.
Yeah, get a little momentum going and bring the old feelings back.
Yeah.
It's like riding a bicycle.
Yeah, I enjoy fishing. Like last week I fished the Wednesday nighter. I'm fixing to go in the next couple hours to the Wednesday nighter and take Brantley. And I feel like I'm ready to fish, and I can't wait for the rest of the year to get underway.
Yeah, that's exciting. I'm glad we were able to sit down and talk about all this, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the next couple years in life for you, and we'll bring you back here. And obviously, you're right here in town, so we can get together whenever. But I'm excited to just follow what the future brings for you. I know that you help us out here at the shop a lot, whether it's making sure that we've got the right baits in stock for certain times of the year, or there's a lot of guys getting ready to go here, they all need this, and we try to really cater to the tournament guys and make sure we have what they need to get things done. And I'm real happy to have you part of our team and part of our family here at 44 Tackle even. And it's been an exciting road to watch you guys perform.
Yep. We need to have some more fan days, and I'd be glad to come do some seminars and interact with the public a lot more as soon as this COVID thing's over. And
I'm excited to get all that going again. I miss all of that. And but I mean, the unfortunate thing is that now where it's hard to promote an event because either you don't know if it's going to get canceled or if it's even safe to have based on the CDC statistics and records and stuff like that and recommendations. So we're really trying to work through those things. But we've got a lot of people in our area that can provide a lot of knowledge for locals here that fish every day that really can't get enough of this stuff. And I think that we're in the right direction, and I think that we're gonna move forward with it. But I want to thank you for coming on. It was awesome to have you here as always. And I wanted to where can we find you on social media?
I'm on Instagram under Robbie Crosnoe Fishing, and then also on Facebook under just Robbie Crosnoe. So, or you can check my profile out on the FLW Outdoors.
Absolutely. And you can reach me on Instagram at Chris Kingree Fishing as well as on Facebook. And you can look at chriskingreefishing.com for Robbie's information. I'll go ahead and post that up there on this episode. But we want to thank you guys for listening, and I've really had a good time here talking with you, Robbie. And we'll see you guys next time.